Well, good morning. This is Doug and my Mavic Air 2, and today we're going to do a flight test of the new smart controller, new to the Mavic Air 2 family anyway, with the parabolic signal boosters on. I've seen a lot of videos suggesting that you use these with the smart controller and other controllers as well, but I couldn't find any that actually showed them in use and any signal strength differences with or without the signal strength boosters here, the parabolic. So I thought I'd get out there and give it a try. It's a beautiful day out. Should be a very nice day for flying. Great for my spotters, and be able to see it at the total distances that we fly. By the way, just a thought, I will be flying with them in the proper position, not as I showed a little earlier, but this is how you want to point your antenna with or without the signal boosters attached. You want to make sure the signal is going out that way as best you can get it, and if it's overhead, of course, you would do that and get a good signal strength. But again, for the smart controller, get those antenna down when you're flying. Okay, a couple things we want to note. First is the signal strength bars at the top. That's giving us an example of how strong the signal is. And then this is the distance that we're traveling when things do change, so we can note how well they perform. In this first set, at about 1,500 feet, the signal drops from 5 to 4 bars, and it stays fairly consistent. By the way, we're going at 7 times normal speed just to try to save you some time on these videos. I try to keep it as short as I can, but it's a little hard if I want to really show everything. And then the next change of signal strength occurs at about 7,200 feet, and that's coming up right now. Here we go, we've done 3 bars, and it fluctuates between 3 and 4 actually for, a little bit. So it's not just steady at 3, but it does bounce back and forth a little bit, and you'll see it when we get up to 10, it actually goes back to 4 for quite a little while. So basically you can just say it's fluctuating, let's put it that way, from between 7 and 10,000 feet and a little bit further. Now this site I'm flying is right on the San Andreas Fault, and you'll get a good view of it on the return flight, and I'll explain what we're looking at there. Now here we see at 16,000 feet or so, the FPV starts to break up. We lost a little bit there, and then it gets a little stuttery as we fly on. And this is where a lot of things start to happen at one time, actually. But bottom line is, this is without the parabolic signal boosters, and the video is definitely an issue at this point in time. Okay, we get our first request to go home, and I could have waited another 10 seconds before I activated it, but because the signal was already poor, I decided to go ahead and send it back right now. And oddly enough, look at the signal strength here. It was actually 4 bars after we made the turn, and it bounced between 3 and 4 bars for quite a little while, which was a little bit of a surprise. But again, this is what it is. Perhaps the angle when it's coming back with the front feet, which have antennas in them, coming towards you is a little bit better for signal strength. And also you can look up the canyon here, and that is the San Andreas Fault right there. If there were to be a little quake while I was here, the drone would fly fine, but I'd be bouncing all over the place, and you'd probably hear some expletives on the smart controller video or audio. Apparently my wife agrees with me, so there you go. Okay, back at 5,000 feet or so, we go back up to 5 bars, and pretty much that's it for
the 5 bars. It's that way for quite a bit. I'll speed through the rest of this and till we get the landing. When we get to the landing, I'm going to show you something of interest. At least to me, it was. I'd like to do precision landings because it's just fun, and what the heck, it's quite a neat feature of the drones here that we have. And as I came down, I realized that right about in here it should start to move over, but it doesn't. And later at the end of the video, I'll explain the issue and the problem, why there was no movement, and I had to end up doing a hand catch. So there's a glitch that I had on my particular flight. I checked it out afterwards at home and confirmed that it is definitely a glitch. Okay, now we're going to start the second test. This is test with the parabolic antenna attached. I try to go to the same altitude. I was a little lower. I think I flew most of the other time at 37,000 or 37 feet, and this one is about 34 feet. And you can see here the first change was that the went to 3 bars to 4 bars, I'm sorry, fairly quickly at 2,200 feet. But it stayed at 4 bars for quite the while, longer than it did without the parabolic boosters. So that just says something for that right there. It flies all the way out to about 14,000 feet with the parabolics attached, so that's pretty good. And here's the change come up here, just dropped down to 3. And there is some fluctuation, but basically it got to 14,000 feet on a solid 4, which was quite a bit, almost double the range that occurred on the first test. Now here's where things are going to start to get interesting. I do get the low battery warning here, and since the FPV is still good, I did not initiate a return to home. I want to see how far we could get and see if there was any FPV breakup or jittering or stuttering or anything. And didn't really get anything. It just stayed pretty steady. So basically I'm saying that with the parabolic signal boosters, there was no signal breakup in the entire flight going out. And again, I think the first flight could have gone this same distance with the batteries, because the first indication from the app was to turn back at 17,800 feet, and this one occurred at 17,600 feet. I kept going in this case because the FPV was still good. So anyway, bottom line, it never did get a breakup, made the turn, and headed on back. So signal boosters did show some improvement over a non-boosters, if you will. Now, oddly enough, on the way back, switching from 3 to 4 bars occurred at about 12,000 feet, which is actually closer in and not as good as without the boosters. So the return distance, for some reason, signal boost wise, is actually better without the parabolic, although I don't think it's a significant factor or issue, but it is what it is. So finally at 2,200 feet or so, the bars go to solid 5, and again, without the signal boosters, it was a little more than 5,000 feet. So interesting that coming back, it's a little bit different. So here are the overall numbers. You can see that with the parabolic, the signal strength was improved going out, and there was no FPV breakup at all that I noticed. The return to home alert, which is based on the battery, was actually identical, so they both went out the same distance, which is consistent. At least that's what you might expect. The distance on the parabolic test was longer only because I kept going further. I didn't, since I had good FPV and a good signal, I wanted to see how far I would go. But coming back, interesting enough, again, on the return flight, it's better with the without the parabolics. One thing I think that's worth mentioning is, quite honestly, the signal strength with the smart controller is very satisfactory. Has been for me anyway. And I do think the parabolics helped somewhat, but again, only at the extreme distance and range, the way it was flying. So I really don't know that they're necessary. I may or may not choose to use them in the future. Well, I'm taking a page from the book of Marcus Crawford of Idaho Quadcopter and supplying some bonus material here. Notice the update that had come with the new smart controller. There's a disable sideways flight feature, and you can turn that on or off so you can fly straighter or fly, more accurately. And when I went to return to home flight earlier, the drone dropped down to its level, but it did not adjust where it was going because the last time I had flown, I had the sideways flight disabled using this feature, and it wouldn't adjust. So I had to land it by hand and put it down. But I went into the settings to try to fix it while in flight, and this is what I saw. I have since tested it at home and found that whether the drone is in flight or not, the signal of the disable sideways flight message, an indicator, shows up and is there. So it's apparently was a glitch. It didn't show up for me, and I couldn't change it at all. So that was a little disheartening. It's a small glitch, but pretty important when you're trying to fly your drone around, I would think. So I'm going to report that to DJI just as a thought, and maybe they can take a look at it. As always, thank you very much for stopping by and watching. I really appreciate it. And please be safe and enjoy your flying out there. Take care.